Well, good day and welcome to you. It is September the 30th, and I hope you're having a great day on this last day of September, wherever you happen to be. My name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs if you are new, and welcome you back if you've been here before. And as always, if you're kind of like this person who just commented in a pinch, want to know more about what I talk about in terms of this information, want to know more about the guy I'm talking about, Maitreya, I have included links in the description portion of each and every one of these videos that I think give you really good background information to start your own investigation about this information, to educate yourself better about it, and to see if there's any truth to it. So hopefully you'll look into it. Because they're free and they're there for you if you want. Now also, you could learn more about this information about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, about his priorities, by joining the discussion. You can join the discussion by posting comments, and then a lot of times I'll try to address those comments in the next video. You can post your question in the comments section, and I always try to answer those questions in the next video. You can email me at searchforsigns@mail.com, or you can sit back and listen and not say anything. However that is, however you want to do it, I'm just glad you're here. Let's get on into it. All right, now, Vanessa Rivera, if you're out there, if you're listening to this, I want to comment about what you had to say. How about that? You said, and I quote, "I was having doubts myself, but lately I've seen some movement and activists work to get a senator to change his mind recently. But the opposition sure is scary lately. We need some help." Well, on this channel, from time to time, I talk about all the miracle signs that have been going on, right? Crosses of light, healing waters, crop circles, UFO sightings, people being saved by accidents from angels, things that I would consider to be miracles. You might consider them to be strange phenomena, right? But have been happening to all different types of religious groups of people of no particular religious faith, but that have also left people with a greater sense of hope. That's the reason why I think that it's not just some strange phenomena. They're actually a miracle of some kind. But if there's somebody out there that can convince a politician to do anything, especially if it's for the betterment of their own constituents without giving them a boatload of money, well, that's about as big a miracle as walking on water, baby. Because you can say that doesn't happen every day for sure, right? So, another thing that I was thinking about in this regard, Maitreya appeared out of the blue in June of 1988 to the Maria Katza group. And it's the famous picture of him with the white headdress and the blue headband. And Benjamin Creme said he spoke in unaccented Swahili for about 18 to 20 minutes. It's a miracle to appear out of the blue in front of a group of people, but I think it's probably just as big a miracle if you weren't born in Kenya and you can speak Swahili unaccented. That's actually pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, I'm just kidding. But I digress. But yeah, that is amazing. And it also kind of leads me into what the other parts of your talk about in terms of the opposition. Now, I know you're from the United States, and some other people might not know you're from the United States. I've known you for a little while, but I've also read your comments that I can pretty much say with fair certainty that you want for the world what Maitreya's wanting for the world, right? The peace, to see the end of hunger, to see the environmental problem fixed and cured and stuff. And the opposition party, the Republican Party, obviously doesn't stand for that. Now, to be fair, I don't think the Democratic Party stands for much either, let alone the principle of sharing and the ending of hunger. But yes, I know that can seem overwhelming and scary. But one thing to consider about this is that they're not in the majority. They talk like they're in the super majority, but they're not. Polling after polling after polling for years has shown that they are actually in the minority when it comes to their policies and the American people. The American people sit really center left, not even to the right center. It's that way. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that all Americans are on board with the principle of sharing either yet, but they're not as conservative as the Republican Party would make them out to be. They're much more, they're a tad bit more progressive than that, I would say, is really what it amounts to. Now, they're cool with everything staying the same to the most part, because if everything's going well for them, but if you talk to them about some of the policies of the left, like the need for better health care, cheaper prescription drugs, cheaper, education and all that kind of stuff, most people are on board with that stuff. But then you listen to these politicians, oh, the American people won't stand for that, and this, that, and the other. Really? You sure? It's just the American people are standing up, are standing for it because they're not willing to do anything about it yet. Does that make sense? But, and even if you look at the last 30 years of electing presidents in this country, there's only been one time in 30 years, and that was George Bush's second election, that a Republican president won the popular vote. Every other time, it's always been because they've been cheating in some way, shape, or form. Gerrymandering, election obstruction, cheating outright in terms of voting machines and all that kind of stuff, that they've been able to win an election the way that they have. The Democrats have always been accused of cheating and all that kind of stuff, which is probably they do, but they're not nearly as good as the Republicans are for sure. You know what I'm saying? And they have the majority of people on their side, and yet they're always playing the defensive. It's the stupidest thing, and because they don't really stand for very much either. And some of the things that they stand for, obviously the American people don't want either, you know what I mean? But by and large, the Republicans are in the minority, and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but yet they keep claiming like they're, they got everybody in their back pocket for sure. But the other thing I wanted to say in terms of the need for help, of course we need help. We have help. Maitreya and the Masters are here, but they're not here to do anything for us. They're just here to kind of show us the way, to teach us, to inspire us, to guide us, to keep us from making the pitfalls by giving their suggestions that would keep us out of the abyss in that way, in shape or form, how to live more harmoniously. But it's up for each and every one of us to do something about it. And even now, the problem with today is not so much the politicians of the world per se, it's the people are not doing anything. They're not standing up for what they believe is right. They're letting the politicians do whatever they want to do, and we throw up in our hands and say, there's nothing I can do about it. Well, I don't agree with that. So even if you're a person who looks back throughout your history and says, I didn't do very much, it doesn't matter. You're still here. We can still do something about it. There's something that each and every one of us can give to the world that not another person on this planet or even in cosmos can give. That's why we're here. We're totally unique in that way. But we just have to find out what it is and do it, or find out what it is and say something about it. You know what I mean? But it doesn't have to be something that is recognized by millions of people. It can be something that is just done amongst a few people. But even if you just tell one person about the need for peace, one person about how to bring about peace through sharing, you then become a part of the solution and not just stay with the problem by it not doing anything about it. Now, I'm not trying to get on a soapbox and say that, I'm perfect. I'm just as complacent as everybody else. But I'm coming to the realization that I cannot not say anything anymore. I have to start talking about this with people. Hopefully by knowing a bit more about this information, it will inspire you to do something about what you believe in and what you think is right. There's a saying, it's not a saying, it's actually a line from a song. It's a line from a song in the 80s by Jefferson Starship. And it's, I think, apropos to this. It says, they play to win, we play for keeps. And I don't mean to be critical of the Share International group, which I know you were a part of too, along with me. But the thing that I always had a beef with them was they never really played for keeps. They just kind of talked about this information and when all along the people who are trying to keep things the way that they are or make it worse are playing to win. And we that know this information, or whether we believe it on any level or whatever, should be playing for keeps. This is our future. What gives, anybody, doesn't even matter whether they're president of the United States or a billionaire or something like this, what gives them the right to tell me or anybody how to live our future or what our future should look like? I believe that we should have peace. I believe that we should have an environment that is sustainable. I believe that we are hurting the environment at an alarming rate. I don't believe what the Republicans are saying, that everything's fine. I don't agree with that, and I think they're sending us right off the cliff if we follow them like that. But what gives them the right what makes them right and me and anybody else of us wrong? It's only their lack of they're tone deaf, and their lack of vision, and their illusion that they are right. They are not right, But I have just as much say in my future as they do, And we need to say that to them and remind them that they are not always right. That the future of humanity is in jeopardy, and it's because of the things that they are doing. It's because of the things that I'm doing. It's because of the things that other people are doing. We have to stop it. Now, it will only come when the principle of sharing it takes place. That's why that's the most important thing that humanity must look at and must talk about and see how to implement, because our very future depends upon it, according to what Maitreya is saying. So, anyway, just sharing. Like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm coming on a soapbox, but if you're a Christian, you're waiting for God or Jesus to do it. If you're into politics, you're waiting for your politician to do it. If you know anything about this information and you believe it on any level, you're waiting for Maitreya or the Masters to do it. They can't do it. They're not going to do it, in the case of the politicians. We as the people need to start to do something about this. And if you look around the world, even in Iran, people are standing up for what they believe is right. And they're taking the lickings on the chin in the process, but they're even doing it. They're playing for keeps now. People in Russia are starting to play for keeps too. And that's what it's going to take for us to change the thinking with our leaders, is that type of mentality. Do it peacefully, but do it forcefully. And tell them that we mean business, that we want a future for our family and our children and our children's children. And we want that future to be better than what we have today. Anyway. So I said my piece. Now, In a Pinch commented and said, I stumbled across this completely randomly. No idea why. Just popped up in my algorithm and I thought, hopium, clever. Well, thank you for that. And then you also said, now I'm scratching my head because I'm not sure what you're referring to. And I'm not laughing at you saying it and but I'm laughing at why you're saying it, because I didn't explain myself probably as well as I should have in the video that you were listening to. But you asked, what is this information and who is this guy I'm talking about, asking out of general curiosity. In every video, I always suggest to look into the description portion of these videos and check out those links that take you to websites that give you really good background information. And I say that so I don't have to keep bringing up the background information about this in every video. I do talk about it from time to time, but you can get a lot of really good background information about Maitreya. And when I say this information, I'm talking about the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, but I'm also saying about it in the way, and I'm referring to it as information, so it doesn't come across like I'm like dogma or I'm trying to change your beliefs in any way, because I view myself as just an ordinary person with extraordinary information that I'm willing to share with you, and you can take it or leave it however you want to take it. So that's why I always say this information versus, the Bible says this. I don't like that, Now, this information is coming from the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, mainly from Benjamin Creme, who said for years that the one awaited by all the world's religions, which is the guy that I'm talking about, Maitreya, is already here. And every single religion is waiting for a teacher to come back in some way at some time. They don't see that it's the same individual, and they don't agree upon when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen, but it's actually happening now. And it doesn't mean the end of the world. It actually means that we are entering into a time where we start to see ourselves as one, which I know seems rather utopian. But as it says in the Buddhist texts, that at some point, which is now, Maitreya Buddha would come back and inspire and galvanize humanity to build a brilliant golden civilization based on righteousness and truth. And in the Bible, they talked about the New Jerusalem, and that kind of thing, in the same kind of way. But in the New Jerusalem represents humanity on this planet, not a city in Israel. So, but it's not so important to know or to believe even about who and what I think Maitreya is. Now, I believe he is the awaited teacher based on my own personal experiences with him. which if you want to know more about that, there's a bunch of videos I put up, a playlist entitled My Maitreya Experiences. You can listen to some of those and you can see if it has a ring of truth for you or not. But it's more important to see what he's standing for and what he wants us to start to see as important, which is the need for peace. Now, it's not only about the need, it's also about how to fulfill that need, which he says is without sharing, there can be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. Without sharing, there will be no justice. Not can be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And without peace, there will be no future. So in these videos, I also offer up evidence to, prove in my own way what he's saying is true, that sharing will bring about justice and bring about peace. And that, I think, is the most important thing to really consider and really look at when it comes to this information, not the other stuff. But, you can if you think it's important, but if you don't think that anything to do with who I believe Maitreya is important, that's not really important for me in terms of this information. This information is about the priorities of Maitreya, the need for peace. But the evidence that I offer up that what he's saying is true, that sharing will bring about justice and bring about peace, I always talk about it in a reference to the Marshall Plan, which happened right after World War II, where the United States gave excesses of resources that they had freely to Western Europe in order to rebuild Western Europe. Had we not done that at that time, Europe could have gone back into another world war, and then it would have been disastrous because the United States and Russia both had nuclear weapons at that point. Now, if you look at it, even if the intention wasn't there, because we did this little bit of sharing, those nations that were historically at each other's throats from time to time, and even up until recently at that point, were at war with one another, haven't attacked each other since. The United States has not invaded Britain. Britain has not invaded France. France and Germany haven't gone to war, since they started the principle of sharing. So it could be said that even though the Marshall Plan only lasted for 4 years in a very limited way, it did bring about a little bit of peace. So what would happen if we did it globally and ongoingly? I guess would be the question that I would ask. Would it not change things? It could. I think it would. But the other question would be, why not just try it? You know what I'm saying? If it worked, 75 years ago, why not try it now and see what happens? So that's the most important thing to look at in terms of this information. That's why Maitreya, when he's speaking on TV, is not claiming to be Maitreya, is not claiming to be the one awaited by all the world's religions. It's important for us to look at when we hear him, even if we don't recognize that it is him who is speaking to us, to be able to just sit back and listen in a very relaxed way, in a very honest way, ask ourselves, is what he's saying true or not? And be able to say to ourselves, or be free to say to ourselves, I don't agree with that. So, now the other thing is, I'll dovetail on this. There's a saying in one of the Ageless Wisdom texts, Leaves of Moria's Garden, where Maitreya said, there was a time when one true man could, and not just man, but person, could save the world. And then there was a time when 10,000 wasn't enough. In the coming time, I will call on 1 billion people. And Benjamin Creme asked his master, not too long or before he died, has Maitreya gotten his 1 billion people? And according to Maitreya, there's 1.5 billion people who want to see peace, who want to see change, and are willing to do something about it. Now, it might be a latent urge to do it, but Maitreya is going to waken that up in the hearts of those people, and we're going to see a very swift change in popular opinion here very soon. And it's because of the hearts and the minds of the 1.5 billion people who want to see the change. So anyway, wait and see, as I say. Now, but I do thank you for your comment, and I'm sorry if there was any confusion I might have caused, when you listen to that video. But check out if you're listening to this in a pinch and you've listened this far, check out those links in the description portion. of these videos and go check out some of those websites and get some background information on it. And then ask yourself honestly if there's any truth to this or not. You said, and I quote, you have no idea why it popped up in your YouTube algorithm, but maybe there's a reason why. Time will tell, as they say. All right, lastly, Spirit Watcher 178 said, "This hopium, do I need a prescription from my doctor?" Probably. Maybe, I guess. And if you do need a prescription from your doctor for hopium, it's probably going to cost you a lot more than you can afford. Now, which leads me to my point where you're talking about. It says, okay, here's my question for you. Have you heard of ideological subversion? Yes, I have, but it was not called that, but I understand what you're talking about. This psychological warfare, brainwashing the masses, dumbing down society, creating a more selfish, self-centered, ignorant person unable to discern facts from fiction. This process began here in the United States on 9/11, and it takes around 20 to 25 years to be effective. Will the masters break this cycle of brainwashing of society? All right, now, I was thinking about how to answer this question when I read it the other day. And one thing I will say before I try to answer the question, I don't think this started on 9/11 or after 9/11. I do think this has been going on for a very, very, very long time in some way, shape, or form. I do think it was weaponized during the Cold War on both sides, Russia, the United States, and maybe even England and France and some of the other NATO nations and Warsaw Pact nations do it too. Mainly the United States and Russia, I'm sure, because they didn't trust one another, right? And this was a way of attacking the other one without physically dropping a bomb on them, and so to say that it happened after 9/11 in some kind of conspiracy theory kind of way, that it's eventually going to culminate in the next year or so or whatever, I don't think is necessarily accurate, but that's just my own perception of it based on what I read. I will say this. I'm about halfway through that video you sent me. I really appreciate it too. Just a little side note. And I find it very intriguing just on an intellectual level. And I am going to finish it up. Now, when I Googled ideological subversion to kind of figure out what you were talking about at first, a book popped up, and he talked about the radical left and the radical left's agenda for communism or socialism or things like this. And this is what I want to talk about too in this. If this is what you're talking about in this regard, I do think, like I said, that this type of brainwashing has been done for a very, 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 very long time in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so if we went back, I don't know, right when the churches started, they perpetrated a lie on the people of the time that in order to know more about God, in order to get in good graces with God, you had to go through them. You had to give them money, right? You had to tithe to them. And they probably started in the same way, kind of talking about it, repeating it, talking about it, repeating it. And then they even went so far as to change some of the texts of the Bible to, quote unquote, confirm what they were talking about. And then it became dogma. And then it changed the culture of the people. And then it changed the course of history in a lot of ways. And then it just became the way things are. And it took a long time, but they did it, right? So that's one example I'm talking about. I do think they were doing it during the Cold War, for instance, right? And then you look at commercials even. Corporations do it, you know what I'm saying? To get to sell your product, to get you hooked on their product. And when I was reading your question and I was trying to think how to answer it, something funny happened not too long ago for me. I was in a store and I saw Big Red chewing gum, which I haven't chewed Big Red chewing gum in 30 years probably. But I started thinking about the jingle. The big red freshness lasts right through it. Your fresh breath goes on and on while you chew. Anyway, you might not have heard that jingle. I remember that jingle. It just popped in my head. I couldn't get out of my head when I saw it, right? And it was because I heard it over and over again on commercials when I was a kid, right? It wasn't very effective because I'm not chewing Big Red gum now, right? But there are other products that I've used that I've been conditioned to use based on this same technique. You know what I'm saying? So, but the thing about the reason why I want to talk about the book that when I Googled ideological subversion, talking about the radical left's agenda to bring about socialism and communism in this country and all that kind of stuff, which is a huge fear that this country has, which the right keep perpetrating, this lie, I think, that it's an evil to want something like socialism for the people, okay? And I'm going to give you some examples of it here in just a second. But, to get back to your prescription question, right, from your doctor, yeah, we're paying way too more for our prescriptions, far more than we need to be paying because of this very lie but even just me, for instance, just in healthcare, this is an example. Last year, I spent nearly $8,000 on insurance premiums for myself and my family. And I did not go to the doctor once last year. And I didn't do that because I didn't want to spend any extra money to do that. And if I had ever had any kind of serious illness or injury, I would have to shell out thousands of more dollars, even though I just spent almost $8,000 on insurance premiums. I got nothing for it. And yet, the system out there is so effed up that people will tell me that this is what I want. This is what I need. I need it to be like this. This is the best thing for me. Socialized medicine is an evil. That's what they tell us. And they say it over and over and over again. The radical left want this. Even the Democrats don't really want universal health care, to be honest with you. It's more the extreme progressive wing of the Democratic Party that wants it. I want it. Even when people tell me that that's not what I want, I tell them you're full of garbage, right? Because, I would rather spend that $8,000 in taxes and give it to the government for health care that I know that I could use and not have to spend another dime on my health care and get the health care that I want. No. But yet they tell me over and over again, this is what you want. You don't want that. This is what you want. But make no mistake about it. We are living in the United States. We're living in a socialized country. It's socialism. It's corporate socialism. It's not socialism for the people. And historically, over the past few decades, anytime the shit hits the fan, the money was given directly to the corporate donors, the banks, the corporations to bail them out. And then when the radical left, and I'm using that term in parentheses, asks very meekly for a little bit of pittance of a money compared to what they just gave all these corporate donors for the people, that same effed up system will tell you you don't want that because that's going to cause hyperinflation. That's going to make sure people don't go to work. People aren't going to want to work. It's going to screw the whole system up. No, don't give that to them. After they just took 95% of the money that should have been going to the people, they just kept for themselves. And the same people that get kicked in the nuts every day by that system will live and fight and die for the same system that does not care at all about them. It is totally screwed up. And it's all because of psychological warfare, brainwashing, dumbing down the masses, and creating a selfish, self-centered, ignorant person unable to discern facts from fictions. Those are your words. And that's the reason why we have the system that we have. None of it serves the needs of the people. It serves the needs of just the very few. Now, Maitreya, and this is what to answer your question, will they break the cycle? Maitreya said this, and I'm paraphrasing. Something to the effect of, he comes to rid the world of separation, to rid the world of separation forever, or drive. He said, what did he say? He comes to rid the world of the crime of separation forever, or something to that effect. I don't feel like I'm saying it quite right, but that's the point of it. And so, if you look at psychological subversion or ideological subversion, ideological conversion of peoples, oppression of peoples, commercialization, it all comes from one thing. The problems of humanity really come from one thing. They come from the false belief that we are separate. Because once you believe yourself to be separate, then fear comes into play. Then once the fear comes into play, all manner of things come into play that are destructive and harmful. You start to hate other people, you start to distrust other people, you start to oppress other people, you start to be oppressed by other people, you start to allow oppression from other people, you start to become complacent and allow crimes like starvation to exist in a world of plenty and so forth. And it's all because of the fact that we believe that we are separate. And Maitreya will say the only way that we can start to manifest unity on this planet, because that's the reality of the situation, is to bring about the principle of sharing. There's no other way. And as Ben's master said, it would alleviate the majority of the human ills and sufferings at a stroke. Now, it might not be right away when this would happen, but eventually what would happen is countries of the world be like, why are we doing this? We don't need to spend all this money and these resources and time and energy and our creative, impulses on something as useless as psychological warfare on our own people even. But they would have to trust one another a little bit better, right? And the only way we can start to trust one another, according to Maitreya, is to share the resources of the world. And the only reason why countries do these kind of things is because they don't trust one another, right? And that's because they believe themselves to be separate. They try to hoard all the resources for themselves. They don't trust the other country. They want to make sure that they're on top and the other countries are subverted underneath them and that kind of thing. And it's all because of the belief that we're separate. So yes, Maitreya will, in a way, break that cycle of brainwashing by ridding the world of the crime of separation and driving it from this earth forever. But he will do it by awakening the hearts and minds of all of us that we are one. Because in truth, in reality, within the hearts of us sits that truth that we are one. We just have forgotten it. So hopefully that answers that question. But anyway, I really do appreciate the question and the comment. And like I said, I always appreciate your questions, Spirit Watcher 178. You've been asking some very, very good questions that get me thinking. So hopefully it gets everybody else thinking too. I love everyone. Thank you so much. You guys have a great weekend wherever you are. I look forward to talking to you in future videos starting next week at the very latest. You guys take care. Enjoy the day.
Help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.